X, I seriously need your help figuring out what the fuck happened to me. I encountered someone or something out in the Minnesota woods on a camping trip, and something, I don't know, entered or it took over my body. It's hard to explain what I experienced, but I will try my best to explain. It has been over a month since this happened, and I still feel groggy, and like I have this constant fog or haze in my mind that makes it much harder to think and even just get excited about things in my day. Hopefully, with my explanation, these ramblings will start to make sense. Be me. I am a 33-year-old guy living in Minnesota and working in an office as an IT technician. Now, despite how my job would make it seem, I am not the nerdy type. I got the job as a favor from a friend, and if I'm honest, the first long while of it was hell. I knew next to nothing despite pretending that I did, and it took a lot of learning on the job and many Google searches to actually learn enough. I had a lot of scares, and if not for my friend being in the position that he is, I would have gotten fired very early on. I realized I had to actually learn to keep my job, and so I took a lot of courses while working at the same time. Doesn't really have a lot to do with the story, but I thought I should mention some backstory. Now, I am a big lover of the outdoors. Like I said, I much prefer being outside and exploring nature as opposed to being locked in a room all day. I love to hike and to camp and have camped all across Europe back in my college days. I was broke as fuck, but always managed to scrape enough together for short trips to camp, which is probably why I was broke. Anyway, so my friend and I that I previously mentioned had planned to go out camping in the deep woods of Minnesota. There's this place in Minnesota that I somehow had just skipped over and never gone to before. This place is the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, which is in northeastern Minnesota. It's a pretty remote area of wilderness with lots of dense areas of woodland that you can just get lost in and explore, which is exactly my gig. Legit, the only way to get into this place is either by hiking and powering through, or by canoe. I'm not really a fan of water, so planning out a hiking route was what we decided to do. Again, this was a big hobby of mine, so we weren't planning on staying at any kind of designated trails or camping areas, much to my friend's dismay. I had a rough map printed out, and I had marked some areas that seemed good, but the plan was to wing it until we just found somewhere nice. Or until we got so tired that we gave up, and decided to just camp where we gave up, lol. I had managed to get time off cleared with work, so not only was I off the weekend, but I managed to snag Friday and Monday off too, so I had 4 completely uninterrupted days with nature. This was literally a dream come true, and I could not contain my excitement. This is pretty much all of the background out of the way. Sorry if it was boring, but I really just want to explain everything as best as I can without missing any details. Cut to the Friday, the first day we are supposed to hike up. So, the Friday rolls around, and I am prepping for the 2 or 3 hour drive it will take just to get to the base of where we're hiking. The plan was to just leave the car nearby in a quiet area and not leave any valuables behind in it at all. I packed a firearm with me because I am not an idiot, but it was not anything major. I am not a gun nut and just packed a little .38 that I bring with me on any kind of trip. I packed that mainly so I didn't have to worry about things like wolves or crazy assholes who you run into sometimes. I also brought along some bear spray because my .38 would not do shit except make it matter, and if the bear spray won't stop it, then I'm dead anyway. Minnesota laws are a little annoying, so I had to get a permit to carry my .38 in parks and camps. I've had it for a while because I do this a lot. You're not legally allowed to discharge it closer than 150 yards away from the designated camping areas and shit. Fuck that though if it's the difference between life and death. Funnily enough, I've never really had trouble out on any of these trips. I've had a few funny looks and dead-eyed stares, the occasional teens making noise, but otherwise, perfectly peaceful. This is where we hit a snag, and by we, I mean me. My asshole of a friend, Jimmy, I'll call him Jay, decided to cancel the trip at the last minute. I was literally on my way to his house, and he was like, "Yeah, no can do, buddy. I gotta work some more." He basically talked down to me like I'm some low-life leech who just sits on my ass with my finger up it all day long. Talking to me like a kid, like, "Yeah, sorry pal. The grown-ups have to go to our real jobs today." fuck you, Jimmy. He isn't normally like this, so something must have happened. Whatever. I had 4 days of bliss, and I wasn't letting it be ruined by some sock puppet with a suit for skin. So I decided to go it on my own. Okay, at this point I know what you're thinking, and I know how it sounds. Stupid dumbass went to somewhere he's never been before alone, and heard some scary sounds and shit his pants. Yeah, well no, that isn't what happened. Most of my trips have been alone. I am good at this. I know how to handle myself, and I know how this shit goes. This is not something that having Jay would have prevented. I got there and parked the car somewhere safe and started the hike. It was grueling because I had some new shoes that I wasn't used to, but boy was it worth it. The spot that I ended up setting up at was beautiful. There were tons of tall pines and cedars and shit surrounding that made a kind of canopy. Pretty useful in case a rainstorm came my way. There was like a small little clearing, which was just perfect. I was somewhere in between these two lakes. I think the two lakes are called something like Disappointment and Snowbank. Yes, that's a real lake name. It meant that I had a nice scenic view, and from where I was, I could see to the opposite bank of where the lake covered. It was just a ton of tall and dense trees and bush, but it was still nice. Conditions were pretty much perfect, and so I got set up, ate, and then rested up for a while. I had a little nap, and when I woke up it was pretty dark. I had a campfire pre-set up, so all I had to do was light it, which gave me both warmth and relief. This is where my trip took a turn for the worse. I had only woken up from my nap because I was hearing sounds. I kept hearing the occasional splash sound coming from the direction of the lake. Just soft plinks at first, but then I heard something loud, like someone had dove into the water maybe. When I woke up, sure enough, I could see that the water had been disturbed recently. I chalked it up to teenagers throwing stones at first, but the large splashing made me think otherwise. What kind of maniac jumps into a lake in the pitch blackness? You'd freeze to death. I also don't know what kind of responsible parent would just let their kids camp out here without supervision either. Whatever. I just tried my best to put it out of my mind and warm up. It was hard though. I had a really uneasy feeling after that splash. It was like a kind of growing dread that started in my stomach and just grew and spread until I could feel it everywhere in my body. It felt like some kind of impending doom was getting closer. I felt silly at the time, but looking back, my body must have known that something was up. After that splash, there were no more ambient sounds like you would hear usually. Everything was just dead fucking quiet. This really did not help how I was feeling. I was half worried there might be a predator nearby, and so I was gripping my 38 pretty tightly and made sure I had it loaded. Then I started making out some faint sounds, just barely audible on the edge of my hearing. It sounded like it was coming from my east and above me. Just little sounds of leaves being moved in bunches and of twigs snapping. And then I swore I could hear fucking footsteps. And before I could even try to convince myself otherwise, I could see some sort of figure standing up there above me. It was too dark, and the light would not reach that far, and so it was just pure black, but it for sure looked like a human. I fumbled for my flashlight, but without taking my eyes off of it. This unfortunately made my search for my flashlight take an agonizingly long time. I just didn't want to take my eyes away, because if I did and that figure was gone, I was going to shit my pants. It kind of just walked across the tree line for a bit. I saw whoever it was make a half-hearted attempt to get lower down, but not properly. It didn't get all the way to the ground, it just lowered their body about halfway. The whole time it looked like they were facing me, like actually looking down on me. It walked back and forth along the tree line twice before I said fuck it and looked away. I managed to find my flashlight, but as I was looking away, I heard leaves and a thump, like someone had jumped and landed. I turned my flashlight on and basically lit the whole place up. I scanned and scanned for about a minute before I jumped. I realized that this person, whoever it was crouched down low, maybe 10 feet away, just staring at me. I immediately raised my 38 and asked who the fuck they were and what they were doing. They stood up and just walked out into open view, and I got a good look at them now. It looked like a musty old homeless man. He must have been older than me, maybe 40 or 50 years old. He was soaking wet. You could tell by his hair and his dripping pants. He had patches missing from his hair. Looked like they had been torn out by hand or something. He had cuts and scars, and he looked truly awful. I'm not talking standard homeless person awful. I mean, on the verge of fucking dying. He was incredibly malnourished, bordering on skin and bone. He looked like he would turn to dust if I just poked him with a stick. He was pale as fuck, like he was going to pass out right then and there. I honestly started to feel a little bad at that moment, but I am not stupid enough to let my guard down. He was still halfway between crouching and standing, and he started to walk closer to me. I shouted for him to stop and kind of gestured with my gun, just to emphasize that I was not playing around. The way he moved towards me was truly bizarre. It was like he didn't have enough power in his legs to properly lift them. He kind of half dragged his feet instead of stepping, and combined with him being half crouched, it was truly uncanny. You know that old stupid flash game co-op where you have to make the dude walk, and you always end up looking crazy? It was exactly like that. I asked him again, "Who the fuck are you, and what are you doing here?" He just kinda stared at me, and made these weird grunting sounds. It was like he was trying his hardest to talk, but only grunts would come out instead of words. He raised his hand in the air, but really slowly at first. He started moving it like an inch at a time, and then he shot it up really quickly into the air. Made me worry for a second. So now he had his hand raised, but with just his 2 middle fingers up, and no others. Just fully straightened out, and then he kind of shook his hand back and forth, and then side to side. I don't know if he was flipping me off or trying to say hi. He starts to move again. He moves a few inches, and I shout, and tell him if he moves again, I will defend myself. He does not listen. This fucker just awkwardly slides his left leg while trying to lift the other, and as he does this, his upper body goes backwards, and he is looking at me now from almost a horizontal angle. I take a shot at his feet, and that finally gets him to stop. Any rational person probably would have put a bullet in him and claimed self-defense. I didn't want to kill anyone and ruin my trip. I will admit, I've never shot anyone before. I've never even killed a small animal. Outside of a gun range, I've never used this gun before. Probably makes me sound like a pussy, but whatever. That is how scared and panicked I was. He starts to mumble something to himself before it progressively gets louder. Just grunts and half moans before he finally said something intelligible. I could only barely hear it, because the voice sounded like it hadn't had a sip of water in years. Or like they were a cigarette smoker who had been smoking 30 a day their entire life. He said something like, "useless." I was just like, what the fuck? And he mumbled some more, and while he started to stand up straight, and then starting to lean back, it sounded like he mumbled out, "can't do anything." I am utterly perplexed at this point. His eyes are still locked on, but he's in nearly a full backwards bend while upright. And then he just starts to spasm. He is shaking and his muscles are twitching, and it looks like saliva is starting to slowly drip out of his mouth. It looked like he was having a full-on seizure while standing up. Again, his eyes are still locked directly onto mine. I am freaking out, thinking I need to get him medical attention. But I'm worried he might be pretending, and might attack me if I look away to get my phone. After about a full minute of this, the homeless man falls to the ground. I see his eyes close, and once they do, I start to get this feeling in my stomach. The dread is still there, but this cold feeling washes over me. It basically goes through my entire body and replaces the dread feeling. It starts in my feet and travels up through my body, and as this guy hits the ground, I feel a kind of brain freeze feeling, and my vision goes fucking black, and I hit the ground too. It's like I've blacked out, but I am still conscious and thinking, and I am so scared. I have no idea what is happening to my body. I can feel myself start to shake, and I think maybe I am having a seizure. My muscles are really starting to cramp and ache, and I feel like I might throw up. Maybe 5 minutes pass by of this and my eyes finally open back up, and I feel so relieved. I'm trying to get up but I can't, and I'm panicking a little. Reality hits me when I see that the homeless man is still down on the ground in front of me. All I can think is, oh fuck, I just watched someone die, and this was my body's response to the trauma. I try and I try, but I can't get up. And then about 1 minute later, I feel myself starting to rise. I'm getting up to my feet, but I'm not doing anything. I can feel my muscles moving. I can feel my feet planting, but I am not actually trying to stand at this point. And then my head starts looking around, looking at my hands, feeling my face. What the fuck? I am not fucking moving my body. But I can feel it all. It's all just on automatic. Am I disassociating? Is that what this is? I don't even really know what it means. This whole next part is almost like a blur in my mind. It doesn't actually feel real, more like an elaborate dream that you would write down after you wake up. I would have written it all off as that if I did not have the vivid memories of everything else, the scars to prove it, and what happened with me after. There is no way to really explain this normally without dragging this on for another 10,000 words, so let me try to speed it up. Any movements I try to do just aren't working. I am constantly talking to myself in my own head like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is happening? Why can't I move? All the while my body is just moving on its own, but not fluidly, at least not at first. I could not stop myself to pack up all of my camping gear. I kind of shuffled over to my tent, picked up my phone and my keys and just left. I left my fucking 38 there. In no world would I ever do that. This is a public fucking space. They will revoke my fucking license, and I could go to jail if they find it and trace it to me. The whole multiple hour hike back to my car, I am trying to turn my head, to close my eyes, to even just twitch my fingers, and I fucking can't. I'm like half shuffling all the way, dragging one foot behind me as I move, fucked up posture like I've been in a car wreck, arms raised halfway in the air like a fucking idiot. I could still feel every single sensation though. I felt how hungry and how tired I was. I felt my arms starting to ache from being raised, and I could feel all of the cuts and all of the bruises from the brush and thorns because I had not gotten dressed properly and put some real pants on. I eventually got to my car. I am so fucking lucky that the roads were empty due to how late and dark it was. It was like I'd never driven a car in my life, swerving between lanes and accidentally hitting the e-brake. It was like I was drunk, but worse. Again, it is so difficult to explain how surreal this felt without you being able to experience it firsthand. It was like I was high, but even more extreme, and again, I was not in control. Not like a I'm drunk, not in control, as in nothing I tried to do with my body would work. I eventually got home and managed to eventually fumble with the keys to get in. I didn't even bother locking it. I just trudged upstairs into the bathroom and started looking in the mirror. Let me reiterate, when I say I am doing things, it's like I'm backseat in my own brain. I am not doing shit. I see myself in the mirror and I look a wreck. I am just totally pale and my eyes are red and wide. My cheekbones look like they've almost started to get thinner, which is weird, because they did not look like that earlier. I had only been gone barely a day or so maybe. My hands start to touch my face automatically, and I can see that my lips keep pursing and then releasing, and I can see my jaw moving up and down. At first, I just hear sounds, the click of my mouth because my mouth is as dry as a desert, and then a low gurgling noise, and then words, just something like, finally. And in my head I am now spiraling, and I am asking who the fuck is speaking? Who is doing that? Who is saying those words? And I speak again and just say, no. What followed this was without a doubt the worst week of my life. I did not go to sleep that night. My body did, but I was awake for the entire 14 hours. I just sat there in silence and blackness the whole time, trying to work out what was going on. I did not want to believe it. I just wanted to open my eyes and it all had been a dream. I was wondering if maybe that homeless man did something to me, but he never got close enough to touch me. Unless he maybe drugged me while I was asleep. At this point, I had no fucking clue. I was still in a daze. At some point during the evening, my eyes finally opened up. I got up and dressed and went straight for the fridge. I pulled out the cooked chicken, the block of cheese, the milk, just everything. I could feel something in my stomach that was more than hunger now. It was just like something raw that I can't even describe. I took the chicken out of the packet with my bare hands and just started taking a few bites. But about 40 seconds after I swallowed it, it all came back up. It was like an instinctual bodily reaction to just reject the food. I tried again and again with cheese, milk, fuck, even water, but every single last bit came back up. And I screamed, or at least tried to, but my voice kept breaking. I did not eat for that whole almost week that this happened to me. I couldn't even force down any water. If this shit went on for even a day longer than it did, I would have been fucking dead. The next few days that passed by, the days I had off, I just tried to pretend that nothing was wrong and that nothing was happening. Whoever was moving my body now went out every day. It took about a day or so before I managed to walk semi-normally and stop dragging my feet. I was finally able to speak by that point too. I would just have these weird and long and stilted conversations with people in the street who you could tell just wanted it to be over. They probably thought I was a crazy crackhead or something. I would just pry and pry for details and would not take no for an answer. One guy ignored me and I followed him down the street for around 5 minutes, just asking question after question, basically talking to myself. I had basically resigned myself at this point. I didn't understand, and I was so fucking scared. All I could do was retreat into my mind and pretend that nothing was happening. I had to pretend that I was doing these things, that I wanted to do these things. Like every movement and action I did, I pretended, yep, I did that. That was all me. The return to work was the worst. I barely knew how to do things again. I reverted back to how I was when I first started. Just a clueless idiot who had to look everything up and just avoid and try to delegate. My friend picked up on it pretty quickly and pulled me aside. He was pretty concerned actually. He asked me if the trip went okay. He asked if it was because he dropped me and I was depressed, then asked if something happened that's causing me to be sloppy. I just put on a big grin and was like, nothing is wrong at all, boss. He was sketched out to say the least. It got worse and worse as time went on. I thought I would get fired for sure. I kept trying to follow my friend around like a puppy dog and asking for help and other shit. One day he snaps and tells me to fuck off and grow up. I just went back to my desk like I wasn't fazed. I guess he felt bad because he approached me after work for the first time since before I got back. He told me he was sorry for dropping out of the trip, that work stress was getting to him. He invited me over for a beer that night, and I was so quick to say yes. Over-eager, and he barely got a chance to even finish the invite. He was just like, okay, sure, I will drive us then. The car ride was just awkward. Neither of us made any effort for conversation. We pull up and I just kinda sat for a second until he opened the door and was like, so, are you coming or what? He seemed pretty pissed off. He opened the door and went ahead of me and I followed in. He grabbed a drink and sat down as I just stood there in the hall with my shoes on like a lemon. Bear in mind that this entire time I am still making attempts to move, to speak, to do anything, to try and tell my friend that I am not well. What follows next is an absolutely unreal sequence of events that I can scarcely believe happened, especially since it escalated so quickly. He starts asking what the fuck is wrong with me, why I've been so weird all this time. He started going on a huge rant about how I'm so lazy and boring and a blight on the company, and how he only keeps me around for pity. He just goes on and on, not even looking at me. All the while, I can feel that I am starting to lean back and starting to shake. Oh my fucking god, I am starting to shake again. He sees this and is like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he comes over and pushes me to the ground. This completely stops whatever shaking was happening. I get back up and tell him to shut the fuck up, and he gets really mad. He tells me to leave, and I just stand up and start to do the same thing. He is ordering me to leave and gets right in my face. He goes to grab me, but I punch him really hard in the side of the face, and he falls on his ass. He tells me to get out right now, or he is going to get his gun. I can see that he is calling the police. He calls up and just tells them that I will not leave, that I am trespassing, and that I just assaulted him. He keeps coming back over to me, and is now trying to fight me. My movements are becoming awkward again. One limb moving at a time, moving while in awkward positions. He hits me once in the stomach, and I grab him by the neck with both hands. I squeeze for a minute, and I hear myself say, "Don't make me do it." He is now begging me to stop. I can see the life draining from his eyes. I think he's going to die. And then I throw him to the ground, and the shaking starts again. He is just low to the ground, barely even on his knees, just taking these really long and rapid breaths, one after another. He is screaming now, asking what the fuck is wrong with me, if I'm trying to kill him. Keeps asking me if I'm having a psychotic break or something. These events must have happened over the course of 10 to 15-ish minutes. I can't fully remember. Then I hear the sirens. I felt both relieved that someone was going to stop me, but also worried that I might go away for a long time. By the way, that has got to be the fastest police response I've ever seen in my life in this state. The door is unlocked, and they break it down, and they scream at me to drop to the ground. I don't even turn to look at them, and I hear them approach behind me. The officer in front grabs my arm, and I instinctively turn to try and stop him. Another officer rushes in to attempt to help him. In the scramble, they manage to grab me and force me to the ground, but I hit my head on the vinyl floor hard. My vision went black, but this time, I actually passed out. I had never been so happy to wake up in a cell in my life. I felt groggy, like I'd spent a night binge drinking, but I could move again. My muscles hurt and I begged for water, barely able to speak through my raspy-ass voice. When I told myself to stand, I actually could, albeit I didn't really have a lot of energy to. I could blink when I told myself to blink. That feeling of being high and like not being present in my brain was gone. I started tearing up. The officer there thought I was some drug-addled freak, but it was tears of pure joy. Well, joy and just the pent-up emotions. That whole time I could not express or release anything. I had all of my autonomy violated. Everything after that was a whirlwind. I had to have a statement taken. I had to explain what the fuck happened to me without getting myself a lifetime membership in the psych ward. I don't even think I really explained it properly. I just said that I was out of it and sad and angry at my friend. I tried to play it off as drinking and a friendly dispute gone wrong. They didn't really buy it, but for some fucking reason, my friend dropped the charges. He said as long as he did not see me ever again, I was good. I still got time. I officially got 21 days in prison for resisting arrest. I was just in some kind of daze for those whole 3 weeks, just trying to process what the fuck happened to me. I obviously lost my job, and my friend wouldn't speak to me anymore to even try to let me explain, if I even could. All things considered, I think I'm very lucky to be alive and not be in jail for a murder charge or worse. This is where you come in, X. I don't profess to be an expert in the occult or other weirdness, and I can't pretend to know what really happened. Is there anything X-related that could feasibly explain this? I have tried going over it again and again in my head, but There is just no logical solution that adds up. My only conclusion is something paranormal, supernatural. I think it has to be the homeless guy. But why and how? And what did he want with my friend? Could it actually have just been drugs? Could I actually have just had a psychotic break and made it all up in my head? Since I am unemployed and have a record, I've suddenly got a lot of free time on my hands. Anything that you can tell me will really help me immensely. Thank you, X. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the stories. The goal for the channel is 100k, so please subscribe, like, and leave a comment because it really helps the channel. Thank you for watching.